If you've been surfing the new releases on Steam lately, you've probably run into a strange little game called Nidhogg, and then you promptly asked yourself, what the hell is Nidhogg? The truth is, it's a game that's really hard to describe with words, and so for the first time ever, I really thought that you needed to see the game to be able to understand why it's so good. That's why we're doing our first ever Jetpack Joust video review. At its core, Nidhogg is a simplistic fencing simulation that sits comfortably somewhere between Street Fighter and Tug of War. It can be played alone or even online, but it's really meant to be played with two players in the same room trash-talking with each other. This is a tribute to the kinds of games you would have played in the 80s arcades. It could sit right along with Galaga or Pac-Man. Don't be turned off by the retro minimalist graphics that even an Atari audience would probably have found a little bit dirty and not necessarily professional. Nidhogg isn't concerned with winning you over with its graphic capabilities. However, there's a psychedelic quality that after a while really starts to come across as beautiful in a way. And there comes a point when you almost feel like you could hang the game up on a wall and look at it in a modern art museum. The focus here is on gameplay, and even if you're never won over by the game's art style like I was, I think you'll find that it's so fun you'll be able to ignore any of its shortcomings. The goal is relatively simple. If you're the player on the left, you must get as far to the right side of the screen as possible, going through several different stages to get there. If you're the player on the right, you must get as far to the left of the screen as possible, also going through several stages. This doesn't sound like it would be incredibly difficult, but you have an obstacle, and that's the other player. With your pixelated swords in hand, you swashbuckle your way through each one of the stages, hopefully getting past that player to get a little bit further towards your goal. The problem is, death isn't terribly permanent in Nidhogg. Almost immediately after you've dispelled a character, a new one will pop up, and that player regains control. You have to swiftly dispatch your opponent over and over again until he kills you and then proceeds towards his goal. Death may not be permanent in Nidhogg, but it is easy. Just running into the tip of your opponent's blade leaves you a puddle of blood on the floor. Now imagine he's coming fast and hard at you, and he can also kick and jump into the air. This is not a simple back and forth battle of swords. You have some acrobatic abilities. In fact, some of my favorite moments in Nidhogg came when I would kick the sword out of my opponent's hand and he would go scrambling for it while I stabbed him in the head or in the chest. That, unfortunately, happened to me quite a lot as well. And when you both lose your swords, it becomes a chase to see who can get there first. If your opponent is laying on the ground, you can also snap his spine and see the blue and yellow and green blood trickle down the scenery. It's these brief moments where neither player is in control that makes Nidhogg so exciting. There's this sense that even under great odds, you can still win. The underdog always has a chance because the game is perfectly balanced and neither player has an advantage. Even if your opponent has one last sprite to get through before the final stage, if you stab him and start off running, you have a chance to win again. Once you've reached your goal line, you'll be met with a celebrating crowd who are clapping loudly for you, and then you will be promptly eaten by a giant dragon. I believe that dragon is Nidhogg. Why we go through all of this trouble to be eaten by a giant dragon, I'm not quite sure, but it's funny, and it matches up with the game's psychedelic sensibilities. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up Nidhogg's stellar soundtrack by an artist called Daedalus. I've been a fan of Daedalus for a long time. He's an electronic musician who does some really interesting things, especially with ambience, and here it completely complements the environment that you're dealing with. Daedalus's beats never completely overwhelm the scenarios, but they do add a little bit of flavor that adds to the tension, and that's pretty awesome. Ultimately, Nidhogg is a combination of potent nostalgia and pure innovation. Nidhogg is the kind of experience that got me excited about indie games in the first place. Only in this space, only with a single-minded creator could you come up with something that's this strange, but this entertaining at the same time. And I really do believe that Nidhogg has an artistic streak that will go mostly ignored. Perhaps it's just the clashing colors and the garish scenery, but something feels deeper, something feels more elemental in Nidhogg that I can't quite describe yet. I'm going to stew on it for a while, and maybe I'll write about it at a later date. For now, you can pick up Nidhogg on Steam or at nidhogggame.com. You can also check out Jetpack Joust at jetpackjoust.com or on Twitter at Jetpack Joust. We hope to see you again sometime. I hope you enjoyed this video review. We're going to be doing a lot more video content in the coming weeks, and we really hope you enjoy it. So come back and see us again sometime soon. Thank you.